There is no big jump coming, no miracle, no perfect moment that turns your life around for you. You are busy, but you are not moving. Your day is noise messages, errands, distractions, and endless small things that steal your future 1 minute at a time. Here is the only variable you control what you do today. Own it. Own your rhythm. Your life does not change by intention. It changes by repetition. That is the law. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day, and failure is a few small errors repeated every day. This audiobook is not hype. It is a system you can execute, one small upgrade per day. No negotiation, no waiting for motivation. In this book, you will work through 10 things you must work on every day, 10 areas that quietly pull your life up or drag it down. You will rotate through them with a clear plan. So progress stops being random and becomes automatic. You will set a minimum standard for good days and bad days. You can shrink the action. You cannot break the chain. You will protect a fixed time block. Because progress is not what you find. It is what you defend. Start today. Stay with me. Focus on you until you win. Chapter 1. The Law of Compounding. There is no big jump coming. No miracle. No perfect moment that shows up and drags your life forward. That fantasy is the drug. You keep waiting for motivation to hit. You keep waiting to feel ready. You keep waiting for conditions to be clean. And while you wait, your life stays exactly where it is. The truth is brutal because it is simple. You do not need more information. You need a repeatable rhythm. You are stuck because you live by mood days instead of discipline days. You keep calling it planning when it is really postponing. You keep calling it preparation when it is really fear wearing a suit. Wake up. The clock does not care how you feel. Your future does not care how you feel. Your results do not care how you feel. Now listen carefully. The only variable you truly control is what you do today. Not your past, not your childhood, not the economy, not other people, not luck, not timing, not what someone did to you. Stop looking outward for a story to excuse an inward collapse. Ownership is not a slogan. It is a decision. You are responsible for your rhythm, fully, every day. No one can live your day for you. No one can do your discipline for you. Not for 1 day. Not for 1 hour. Not for 1 minute. People can advise you. People can encourage you. People can even love you. But they cannot execute for you. And if you keep repeating the same behaviors, you will keep repeating the same life. That is not bad luck. That is a pattern. And patterns do not break themselves. You break them. So here is the law. This is the core. This is the mechanism. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is a few small errors in judgment repeated every day. That is it. Not talent, not hype, not a lucky break. The gap between the life you want and the life you have is not a gap of dreams. It is a gap of repetition. And here is the part that should scare you. Doing nothing is not neutral. It is not standing still. It is moving backward, because the world keeps moving while you delay. Your standards decay while you negotiate. Your confidence leaks while you promise tomorrow. Every empty day is a brick. You are building something with it. Either you build a better life, or you build the same prison with cleaner excuses. And the compounding works both ways. 1% better every day becomes a different person over time. One day wasted, repeated, becomes a different kind of person too. A person who does not trust himself. A person who talks big and executes small. A person who lives in a loop. You do not break that loop with a speech. You break it with a micro shift, a small move, a real move. Right now. Do not ask for a grand plan. Do not demand a perfect system before you begin. You do not need a new life today. You need one decision that proves you are in control again. That is what a micro shift is. It is a small upgrade that is so simple you have no legitimate excuse to avoid it. It is small enough to do even when you have no motivation. Small enough to do on a bad day. Fast enough to finish quickly. Real enough to change your identity from I think to I do. The standard is clear. If the action requires hype, it is too big. If it requires perfect conditions, it is too big. If it requires a dramatic mood, it is too big. Your job is not to impress yourself. Your job is to keep the rhythm. One upgrade, one point, one brick, every day. Do not be greedy. Greed makes you inconsistent. Consistency makes you dangerous. Now I am going to put you in front of a choice. 2 futures, 2 paths, 2 lives. In the first future, you commit to small daily upgrades. You show up. You execute. You log the win. You repeat. And over time, your life changes in a way that looks sudden to outsiders but feels inevitable to you. Because you built it. In the second future, you keep living by mood. You keep starting soon. You keep chasing big jumps. You keep drifting. And a year from now, you will have new excuses and the same results. This is not a motivational quote. This is an ultimatum from reality. Start today. No negotiating with delay. No bargaining with your future. No more I'll do it when. You will do it now. Here is your 24-hour assignment. And you do not move forward until it is done. Within the next 24 hours, write down one small mistake you repeat. Be specific. Not I procrastinate. Name the behavior. Then, write down one small discipline you will use to replace it. Small enough to do today. Then, write the exact time you will do it today. Not later. Not after work. A time. Put it on the clock. When that time hits, execute. After you execute, write one line, I kept my word today. That line is not for your ego. It is a deposit into self-respect. Complete this before you read the next chapter. Chapter 2. The real problem. Busy but not progressing. You are not short on time. You are being robbed every day, quietly, efficiently. The thief doesn't wear a mask. It looks like a notification. It sounds like a message. It feels like just one quick check. Then your attention gets split. Your energy gets drained. Your day gets chopped into fragments too small to build anything real. And you call it being productive. It isn't. That kind of busy is a trap. It's constant reaction. It's running after small fires all day and then wondering why your life never changes. You weren't building. You were responding. You weren't progressing. You were moving. There is a difference. Busy is motion. Progress is upgrade. Busy is noise. Progress is focus. If you cannot point to a real upgrade at the end of the day, then your work was just activity dressed up as effort. Decide to stop being fooled. Decide to stop being robbed. The first step is to name the thieves' scattered attention, eroded energy, and time sliced into useless pieces. Scattered attention comes from keeping your mind open to everything at once. Eroded energy comes from carrying too many inputs that do not serve you. Time sliced into pieces comes from allowing interruptions to own your schedule. You don't need more hours. You need a fortress. You need a protocol. You need to protect the system one day equals one small upgrade. That system is fragile if you let noise walk in and sit at the table. So you will not negotiate with noise. You will identify it, cut it, and lock your focus back onto what actually moves the needle. Here is the scarce reality you keep ignoring: time is fair, but limited. Everyone gets 24 hours, no exceptions. The difference is not the clock. The difference is who guards it. If you distribute your attention to the outside world all day, feeds, gossip, endless tabs, random tasks, your life becomes hollow. You will end the day exhausted and empty, not because you worked hard, but because you leaked yourself everywhere. Your mind cannot compound results when it is constantly reset by interruption. Compounding requires repetition. Repetition requires a rhythm. Rhythm requires protection. This is why the one small upgrade per day system matters. It creates a repeatable rhythm for what matters. So the power of accumulation can finally work for you instead of against you. Without a daily rhythm, you get no compound. You get drift. You get a life that feels full but produces nothing. And drift always wins if you don't install structure. Now you will install a brutal test, a test that ends arguments, a test that exposes fake productivity in seconds, before you do anything, before you say yes, before you open the next tab. Before you answer the next ping, you ask one question. Does this make me better than yesterday? Even a little. Or, does this create one small upgrade in my life? If the answer is no, it is not neutral, it is not harmless, it is trash, it is clutter, it is sabotage, it is stealing your future in exchange for a moment of comfort. You do not need to do more. You need to do what counts. Success does not come from doing the most things. Success comes from repeating the right disciplines long enough for them to compound. That is why your only standard is, this does it move the needle? Not does it feel busy? Not does it reduce anxiety? Not does it look responsible? Move the needle or get out. If it does not produce an upgrade, it is noise. You will treat it like noise, and you will build a ruthless filter to defend your days. Set the operating standard now. If it does not push me toward my daily rhythm, it is noise. Say it, own it, live by it. Then categorize the noise so you can kill it fast. First, digital noise, notifications, feeds, infinite scrolling, endless tabs, the open door of your mind that anyone can walk through. Second, social noise, comparison, the pull to keep up, invitations that sound fun but break your rhythm, people who borrow your time and hand you nothing back. Third, internal noise, the negotiation in your head, the excuses, the soft voice that says, later, the story that says, I deserve a break, when you have not earned a result. These three noises are not separate problems. They are the same problem wearing different clothes. They pull you away from the daily upgrade. And every time you say no to noise, you buy back your future. You are purchasing your life with your decisions. You either spend your attention on what builds you, or you waste it on what drains you. There is no middle ground. When you clean the input, you change the output. When you remove noise, your head gets lighter, your decisions get sharper, your rhythm becomes stable. That stability is speed. That speed is freedom. Real freedom is not doing whatever you feel like. Real freedom is the ability to do what matters even when you don't feel like it. Real freedom is focus plus discipline, applied daily, protected aggressively. You will feel the difference immediately. Fewer mental resets, fewer half-finished tasks, less anxious checking, more deliberate action, and over time, you will see the deeper difference. Your days stop evaporating. Your life starts stacking. The system starts compounding. Not because you found motivation, because you built a fortress. Now, your 24-hour assignment is simple and non-negotiable. You will not move on until you do it. First, write your personal filter sentence. If it does not help me, dog. Then it is noise. Fill the blank with your real objective, not a fantasy, a concrete direction. Second, identify the biggest source of noise in your life right now, one source, not 10, and cut it today. Immediately, turn off the notifications, unfollow the feed, close the tabs, remove the trigger. Don't plan to, do it. Third, lock one fixed time block for tomorrow's small upgrade, one protected window, one daily appointment with your future. Guard it. No bargaining, no exceptions, because only after you remove fake busyness will you finally see the path of real progress. Focus is not a mood. It is a decision. Make it, protect it, repeat it. Chapter 3. The One Thing a Day System. Daily upgrade. You keep asking the wrong question. You ask, how do I feel today? That question is a trap. Feelings change, mood changes, energy rises and collapses. The only question that matters is this. Did you show up today? Because your life does not change when you feel ready. It changes when you appear, again and again, even when you are not ready. Success is not built by rare, heroic bursts. It is built by boring commitments repeated every day. You do not need a perfect week. You need a repeatable day. You need a system that forces you to be present. One upgrade, one action, one proof. Daily. Step 1 is the death of motivation. Motivation is loud at the beginning and silent when the work gets real. It shows up like a friend and leaves like a traitor. If your plan depends on motivation, your plan is already dead. Your future cannot be built on emotions. Your future has to be built on structure. The only sustainable path is not a big jump. It is a little improvement every day. That is the law. That is the math. That is the only way results compound. So stop waiting for the mood. Stop negotiating with the day. Decide the standard. You will show up whether you feel like it or not. Step 2 is the self-trust contract. Every time you promise yourself something and then break it, you do not just lose time, you lose credibility. You teach your mind that your words mean nothing. You build a habit of delay. You train yourself to procrastinate without guilt because you no longer respect your own command. That is why this system is so powerful. One upgrade a day is the cheapest way to rebuild self-respect. It is not about doing a lot. It is about keeping your word. If you cannot keep one small promise daily, you will never execute a big promise monthly. Your confidence is not a feeling. It is a receipt. It is proof collected over time. One action is one receipt. Stack enough receipts and your identity changes. Step 3 is the bad day rule. The days you feel strong are not the test. The days you feel tired, distracted, irritated, and numb, those are the real test. Those days are where most people break the chain. They say, "I will restart tomorrow." Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Here is the rule: you are allowed to shrink the action, but you are not allowed to break the chain. You need a minimum standard so small it is almost embarrassing. 1 page, not 1 chapter. 5 minutes, not 1 hour. 1 push-up, not a full workout. 1 message, not a full conversation. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to protect the streak, because the streak is the bridge. Break the bridge and you fall back into the old life. Step 4 is imperfect permission. Most people do not fail because they are weak. They fail because they demand perfection and then collapse under the weight of it. They treat every day like a performance. They want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect mood, the perfect execution. That perfection is a luxury you cannot afford. You are building a life, not putting on a show. Your new operating rule is simple done is better than perfect, and imperfect is better than nothing. When you choose consistency over perfection, you stop living in fantasy and start living in results. Step 5 is identity compound. When you repeat an action long enough, it stops being something you do and becomes someone you are. That is how discipline is built. Not by a speech, not by a surge, by repetition, by showing up, by keeping the contract, by surviving bad days. Your identity is not what you say you want. It is what you repeatedly prove. And once you become the person who improves daily, every area of your life becomes upgradable. You stop drifting. You start building. You stop chasing motivation. You start commanding action. And understand what this system is really doing. It is not giving you tasks. It is giving you control. When you complete one small upgrade, you are telling your nervous system, your schedule, and your environment who is in charge. You stop being a person who reacts all day and hopes for change at night. You become a person who places one deliberate brick every day. Brick by brick. You build leverage, brick by brick. You build momentum, brick by brick. You build a life that does not depend on luck. Now you need the loop. 4 steps, no complexity, no debate. Step 1. Choose. Pick one area or one thing to upgrade today. Do not pick 10. Pick 1. Make it so small you have no excuse. Step 2. Do. Execute the action immediately. Not later. Later is the first lie. Step 3. Write. 1 line. A simple confirmation. Today I upgraded watwe by doing wakasho ko. This is not journaling for feelings. This is logging for proof. Step 4. Repeat. Go to sleep and prepare to do it again tomorrow. That is it. That is the daily upgrade loop. It is simple on purpose. Complexity is where excuses hide. Now, the 24-hour assignment is non-negotiable. Choose your fixed hour, the same hour every day. Protect it like your future depends on it because it does. Define your minimum standard for your worst day. Write it down. Make it so small you cannot dodge it. Then, today, before this day ends, complete one upgrade and write the one-line log. Do not read the next chapter until you do. This book is not here to entertain you. It is here to change what you repeat. Show up. One thing, today, then do it again, until you win. Chapter 4. Goal Workshop. Number 1. Vague goals are why you keep losing. Not because you lack talent, not because you lack time, not because life is unfair. You lose because your dream is not a daily rhythm. A dream is a poster on the wall. A daily rhythm is a track you run on. And only one of them produces results. If your goal cannot be translated into something you do today, it is just talk. It is noise. This workshop has 2 deliverables, and you do not leave without them a clean list of the 10 improvement zones, and a rotation schedule 30 days if you want speed, 90 days if you want depth. That is the system. That is the rail. Chapter 3 was the engine. Chapter 4 installs the track. You are not here to feel motivated. You are here to make execution automatic. You are here to remove everything that keeps you drifting. Surgical removal. Now start. Step 1 is the brutal audit. No stories, no excuses, data only. Ask the question that exposes your life. Are you actually upgrading yourself? Or are you just reacting to small tasks all day? Are you building progress? Or are you building busyness? Because busyness is the perfect disguise. You can move all day and still go nowhere. So write it down, right now. In your head if you have to. But do not lie in the last 7 days. What small errors have you repeated? What small disciplines have you repeated? Look at your week like a security camera. What did you do on repeat scrolling, delaying, negotiating, starting late, skipping the hard thing? Or did you show up, even in a small way? Did you protect 1 hour? Did you read 1 page? Did you train 1 rep? Did you track 1 expense? If a day ended and you cannot point to 1 real upgrade, that day was stolen, and you let it happen. Here is the rule you will run from now on. A day only counts when it creates at least 1 small upgrade. Not a perfect day, a real day. 1 brick. 1 move that moves the needle. Step 2 is to lock the framework, the 10 core improvement zones. You do not debate the list. You do not customize it to feel comfortable. You use it as a standard. The zones are attitude, communication, self-discipline, mindset/limiting beliefs, time management, knowledge, finances, personal development, purpose, gratefulness. That is the map. These zones are not nice ideas. They are the main areas where your life goes up or goes down. If you improve them, your life upgrades. If you neglect them, your life decays. And decay is not loud. It is silent. It happens while you are busy. So stop treating this like inspiration. Treat it like operations. This is your operating system. Step 3 is leak selection. You will choose the leaks that are draining your results, not the leaks you like to talk about, the leaks that are actually costing you. Pick 3 zones out of the 10 where you are bleeding the most right now. 3. Not 10. Not everything, if you say everything. You are hiding. Choose. Then write the commitment question in your mind and answer it without drama. If I fix this zone, what exactly will change in my life? Exactly, not, I'll be happier. What changes? Better output at work, fewer conflicts, more money retained, more controlled mornings, more consistent training, cleaner focus, stronger self-trust. Your answer must be concrete, because concrete creates action, vague creates delay. Step 4 is micro-action design. This is where your big goals stop being fantasies and start becoming repeatable behavior. Your standards for a small action are strict. It must be small enough to do immediately, small enough to do without preparation, and simple enough to repeat. If it needs the perfect mood, it is not a micro-action. If it needs a full reset of your life, it is not a micro-action. If it is so big that you can fail and spiral, it is not a micro-action. You are building consistency, not performance, so you design 1 to 2 small upgrades for each zone as default moves you can do even on a bad day. Finances: track what you spent, 2 minutes. Knowledge: read 10 pages, or learn 1 skill slice for 20 minutes and use it today. Time management: protect 1 fixed hour and do the one thing that moves the needle. Self-discipline: set a minimum standard and hit it no matter what. Attitude: catch the complaint, name it. Separate the event from the emotion, then choose the next action. Communication: say it clear. Listen hard. Repeat the key point so there is no confusion. Mindset: replace "I can't" with "I'm learning how." Then prove it with 5 minutes of action. Personal development: 20 minutes plus 1 line of notes. Purpose: 1 sentence that anchors why you are doing this. Then 1 action that confirms it. Gratefulness: 1 minute. 3 lines: what you have, who you appreciate, what you improved today. These are examples, not decoration. Your job is to build your own table in your head. Each zone gets 1 or 2 repeatable micro-actions, because when life gets loud, you do not rise to your dreams, you fall to your system. Step 5 and Step 6 are the architecture, the rotation schedule, and the cutting to protect it. Pick the mode. If you want a fast rotation, choose 30 days. You touch zones more frequently. You build momentum. If you want depth, choose 90 days. You stay longer. You drill the habit deeper. Both work. What fails is drifting with no schedule. So here is the rule of execution. You will follow every morning. Check the schedule. Select today's zone. Lock 1 small upgrade. Then execute it in the fixed hour you already set in Chapter 3. Not when you find time, not when you feel ready. In the fixed hour, that hour is your rail, that is your protection. Now, the surgical removal. You will remove 1 to 2 things that are actively breaking your schedule. Noise, small tasks, random messages, endless tabs, social pull, internal negotiation. Anything that steals your fixed hour or splits your attention. You do not need more time. You need fewer leaks. Every time you say no to useless activity, you buy back your future. Every time you protect the fixed hour, you keep the compound interest alive. That is the whole point. The system is not complicated, but it is strict. And strict is what saves you from yourself. Now, the 24-hour assignment. You do not read the next chapter until you do this. In the next 24 hours, you will publish your system. That means you will produce 3 outputs and you will make them real, not imaginary. First, your list of the 10 zones, with 1 to 2 micro actions under each. Second, your rotation schedule for the next 7 days, day by day. Zone by zone based on the 30-day or 90-day mode you chose. Third, you will execute day 1. Today's zone, 1 small upgrade in your fixed hour. Then you will log 1 line. Today I upgraded wak or ik in the zone. Cake. That is your proof. That is your self-trust contract in action. Your system is now installed. The track is laid. Do not wait for a perfect week. Perfect weeks do not exist. Start running the rail now. Show up, execute, repeat. Chapter 5. Attitude plus gratitude. Attitude is not a feeling. It is a decision. Your mood is weather. Your attitude is command. If you let the weather run your day, you will drift, and drift is how you lose years without noticing. Gratitude is not a cute idea. It is a defense system. It keeps your mind from rotting in complaints. It keeps your stamina alive when the work gets boring. Your attitude is a magnet. It pulls opportunities toward you when it is disciplined. It pushes them away when it is toxic. So, stop saying, "That's just how I feel." Feelings do not get a vote. You do. Decide the lens. Decide the response. Decide the next action. This chapter is the operating system for every other upgrade you will attempt. If this system is corrupted, everything else will crash. You can build habits, schedules, and plans, and still fail because a negative, complaining mind will sabotage your execution. Fix this first, then the rest can hold. Here is the core mechanism you will obey: input to reaction to action rhythm. The world gives you input, problems, delays, people, noise. If your attitude is weak, you react impulsively, you complain, you blame, you spiral. That impulsive reaction breaks your rhythm, and once the rhythm breaks, accumulation dies. No rhythm, no compound, no compound, no change. If your attitude is correct, you react with discipline, you keep your rhythm stable, and stability creates accumulation. Remember the law: success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. Attitude decides whether those disciplines survive the day. Attitude is the guard at the gate. If the guard sleeps, the noise walks in and kills your day. Now we get specific. The attitude zone is where most people lose control without realizing it. The first small mistake, repeated daily complaining as a reflex. Something goes wrong and your mouth opens before your brain shows up. You treat complaining like honesty. It is not honesty. It is surrender. The second small mistake, blaming time, circumstances, or other people. Blame feels good for 5 seconds. Then it makes you powerless. The third small mistake, negative self-talk. I can't do it. Today is ruined. This is pointless. That voice is not truth. It is noise, and noise breaks rhythm. You are going to replace these mistakes with a micro-discipline, the 3-step attitude adjustment. Step 1. Name it. Call it out. What exactly is the negativity right now? Are you angry, frustrated, disappointed, tired? Name the trigger, not a story. A fact. I'm irritated because this task is taking longer. I'm tense because I got criticized. Step 2. Separate. Split the event from the emotion. The event can be bad, your emotion can be loud, but the mission remains. The task still exists. The upgrade still must happen. You do not merge emotion into decision. You do not let a feeling become a policy. Step 3. Choose action. One small action. Immediately, not a speech, not a debate, an action. Send the email. Do the first 2 minutes. Open the document. Stand up and start. This is how you regain ownership. This is how you show up. You are not trying to feel better. You are trying to stay in rhythm. On a good day, this is easy. On a bad day, this is everything. Now, the second half. Gratitude. This is where weak people misunderstand strong tools. Gratitude is not pretending life is perfect. Gratitude is refusing to let your mind rot in scarcity. The mistakes here are subtle and deadly. Not enough time, not enough talent, that's not enough money, not enough progress, not enough to succeed, not enough to be happy, not enough to be loved, 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 not enough to be, not enough time, not enough talent. That mindset does not motivate you. It drains you. Mistake 2, comparing yourself to others. Comparison steals energy and creates impatience. Impatience makes you quit early. Quitting early kills accumulation. So you will use a micro-discipline, the 1-minute mind lock. Every day, 1 minute, 3 lines. Line 1, one thing you own, even if it is small. A quiet room, a working phone, a body that can move, a skill you already have. Line 2, one person or one event you are grateful for. Someone helped you. Someone listened. You learned something. You were given a chance. Line 3, one thing you did better than yesterday. Not dramatic, not heroic, real. I showed up on time. I did the upgrade even when I didn't want to. I complained less. This third line matters. It confirms progress. It forces your brain to see movement, not just missing pieces. The goal is simple. Force your mind to recognize abundance and progress. Shift from scarcity to enough, not to relax so you can endure. Because endurance is the game. This is how you protect your system from corrosion. This is how you stay locked in. You want practical daily upgrades to plug into your rotation. Here they are. When you feel the urge to complain, stop for 10 seconds and breathe before you speak. Buy back control. Write one thank you message to a colleague or a family member. Not long. One clear line. Record one lesson you learned from a mistake today. Turn damage into data. Smile and greet the first person you meet at work. That is not nice. That is training your attitude to lead, not react. These upgrades are small on purpose. Small means no excuses. Small means you can do it on the worst days. And the worst days are when your identity is built. Now, your 24-hour assignment. Do not read the next chapter until you execute, within the next 24 hours. The moment you feel irritation, negativity, or complaint rising, run the 3-step attitude adjustment. Name it, separate it. Choose one small action immediately. Then, before the day ends, run the 1-minute mind lock. Write 3 lines, one thing you own, one thing or person you are grateful for, and one thing you did better than yesterday. Finally, write this sentence as your proof of ownership. Today I controlled my rhythm. No speeches, no waiting. Do it today. Show up, protect the operating system. Then the rest of the system can finally work. Chapter 6. Communication plus purpose. You are not stuck because you lack talent. You are stuck because you live in blur. Blur in what you say. Blur in why you do it. And blur always creates the same outcome conflict. Delay, wasted time, and a life that feels loud but goes nowhere. Most of the chaos you call bad luck is just unclear communication playing out again and again. You say things halfway. You hint. You assume. You avoid the real point. Then you act surprised when people misunderstand you, when problems multiply, when you spend hours cleaning up a mess you could have prevented with one clear sentence. And most of the procrastination you call burnout is just a missing purpose. No why, no anchor. So the first hard push knocks you off the path. The noise gets louder. Your discipline gets weaker. You drift. This chapter is here to do one job: clean your channel and lock your anchor. Clear words, clear reason, clear next step. That is how you reduce conflict. That is how you stop quitting. Communication is leverage. Purpose is an anchor. Communication is leverage because it multiplies or destroys your output. When you communicate poorly, you create misunderstandings, friction, and rework. You bleed time, you waste energy, you turn simple tasks into drama. When you communicate well, you buy time back, you get support, you move faster because people understand you the first time. You do not need to work harder. You need fewer problems. Clear communication does that. Purpose is an anchor because discipline does not survive noise without a reason. When life gets loud, when results are slow, when you feel nothing, purpose keeps you in the game. Purpose answers the question your emotions cannot answer. Why am I still showing up? Without that answer, you start negotiating, you start delaying, you start chasing comfort, you start listening to opinions, you start living for validation, and then you lose. So here is the rule: communication gives you leverage with people. Purpose gives you leverage over yourself. Build both. Every day. Start with the communication zone, say it clear. Hear it clean. Your repeated small mistakes are predictable. You talk in circles because you are afraid of the real point. You hide behind vague words so you do not have to own the request. You avoid the truth because truth creates responsibility. You also think the other person understands. You do not confirm. You do not repeat back. You do not check the meaning. Then, one small misunderstanding turns into a chain of errors, and you listen to reply, not to understand. You wait for your turn to speak. You defend. You react. That is not communication. That is noise. Fix it with one simple discipline you will repeat until it becomes your standard, the clear 3-sentence rule. Sentence 1 is the request. What do you want? Exactly. Not a story. Not a complaint. A request. Sentence 2 is the reason. Why does it matter? Exactly. Not feelings. Not drama. A reason. Sentence 3 is the next step. What happens now? Exactly. One action, one deadline, one move. This is how you cut confusion. This is how you stop wasting time. And then you add one more move that turns talk into understanding. Repeat one sentence of the other person back to them, in your own words, and ask for confirmation. Do it every time it matters. You are not doing it to be polite. You are doing it to protect your time and your results. Clear request, clear reason. Clear next step, confirm the meaning. That is leverage. Now, the purpose zone live with a reason. Most people pretend they have purpose because they have big goals, big words, big dreams, big plans, but no action today. That is not purpose, that is fantasy. The repeated small mistakes here are also predictable. You set great goals and do nothing in the next 24 hours. You change direction when the first wave of excitement dies. You chase new ideas because your discipline is not anchored. You live by mood. Then you wonder why you quit. Purpose is not something you find once and keep forever. Purpose is something you feed with daily proof. So you need a discipline that is small, brutal, and repeatable. One anchor sentence plus one anchor action. Every morning, write one sentence: I do these things to achieve whack. Keep it short. Keep it real. No poetry. No excuse. This sentence is your anchor. It is your why. Then you must prove it with one small action that day. Not tomorrow. Today. It can be small. It must be done. Because purpose without action is just another opinion. And opinions do not build discipline. Actions do. You do not need a perfect mission statement. You need an anchor you can execute. One sentence, one proof, every day. That is how you stay when the noise shows up. That is how you stop negotiating. That is how you win slowly. Then, suddenly. Here are small upgrades you can put into your rotation right now in your next meeting. Confirm one key point by repeating it back in your own words before you move on. In one conversation today, listen fully without interrupting, and do not prepare your reply while they speak. Take 5 minutes at the end of the day to write what your work meant and what it moved forward. Write your anchor sentence in the morning and do one anchor action before the day ends. Now the 24-hour assignment. No theory, no delay. Today, use the clear 3-sentence rule in at least one important exchange. 1, state the request. 2, state the reason. 3, state the next step. Then repeat 1 sentence of the other person back to confirm you understood. After that, write your anchor sentence for purpose. I do these things to achieve work. And before you sleep, complete 1 small anchor action that proves that sentence is real. Log it. 1 line. No debate. Clarity is power. Do not let your life drift in blur. Decide. Speak clear. Live clear. Show up. Chapter 7. Self-discipline plus time management. You do not lack time. You lack priority. Say it again until it stings. You are not too busy. You are too available to everything that does not build you. Most people do not fail because they do not know what to do. They fail because they refuse to repeat what they already know. They chase the perfect plan. They chase the perfect schedule. They chase the perfect mood. And while they chase, the day gets stolen. Here is the truth about planning. The problem is not that you do not have a perfect plan. The problem is that you do not have the discipline to execute a simple plan every single day. Time is the most fair resource on earth. Everyone gets 24 hours. Nobody gets 27. Nobody gets a refund. The only difference is what you protect, what you cut, and what you repeat. Now lock in the core mechanism. Discipline is the bridge. Time is the ground. Without a bridge, your goals stay on one side and your life stays on the other. Without ground, your bridge has nowhere to land. Self-discipline is the only bridge between goals and accomplishment. It is the ability to act when you do not feel like it. It is the ability to do what needs to be done when it is uncomfortable, when it is boring, when your emotions are loud, when your motivation is dead. Time management is not stuffing more tasks into your calendar. Time management is building a protective frame around the actions that matter. It is drawing a hard line around your daily upgrade and defending that line like your future depends on it, because it does. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Not once, not sometimes, every day. And the reason you are not getting results is not because the system is complicated. It is because you keep breaking the rhythm. So let's expose the small mistakes that silently destroy compounding. First, you wait for inspiration to start. You treat discipline like a feeling. You tell yourself, "I'll do it when I'm ready." That sentence is poison. Ready is not a location you arrive at. Ready is a decision you make. Second, you set the goal too big at the beginning. You load the first day with unrealistic standards. You crash, and then you call it proof that you are not the type of person who follows through. No, you simply chose a target that guaranteed failure. Third, you quit when the work gets hard or boring. You want progress, but you refuse repetition. You want transformation, but you refuse the dull parts. You want to feel powerful, but you avoid the minutes that build power. That is not a character trait. That is a habit, and habits can be replaced if you stop negotiating with them. Here is the weapon that fixes this: the minimum standard. This is not optional. This is your baseline. The minimum standard is the smallest level of action that is so easy you cannot justify skipping it on a normal day and on your worst day. You will set one minimum standard for good days and one minimum standard for bad days, and you will obey it. The rule is steel. You do not get to break the chain. You can shrink the action. You cannot delete it. You can scale down. You cannot disappear. Because the moment you allow yourself to skip entirely, you teach your brain that your word is weak, and then everything collapses. Discipline is a muscle. You do not build it with speeches. You build it with small reps. Wake up 15 minutes earlier, read 10 pages, do 5 minutes of training, write one line, do the smallest version, but do it every day. Small discipline repeated becomes automatic. And automatic beats motivated every time. Now we move to the other half-time management. This is where people lie to themselves. They think the day just happened. No, the day was taken. Your time gets sliced into pieces by instant reactions messages, notifications, little errands, endless tabs, random requests, low-value meetings, and scrolling that eats your attention without permission. Then you wonder why nothing moves. You have no fixed time block for your daily upgrade, so the upgrade becomes a maybe, and a maybe becomes a never. You confuse busyness with productivity. You do a lot, but you cannot name one thing that made you better than yesterday. That is not progress. That is noise. Here is the rule that turns time into results: one time block plus one priority. One time block every day. Same time if possible. Protected time. Non-negotiable time. This is the time you pay yourself first. Inside that block, you do one thing, the most important thing that can move the needle. Not 5 things, not multitasking, not checking messages real quick. One priority, one move, one brick. You decide that priority early, before the day starts pulling you into reaction mode. You do not see how the day goes. You tell the day how it goes. Because if you do not lead your day will lead you, and your day will lead you straight back into the loop. Now you need examples you can use immediately in your rotation. Wake up 15 minutes earlier and write your plan for the day. Turn off all phone notifications during your focused block. Execute your minimum standard even when you are tired, especially when you are tired. Say no to one non-essential commitment to protect your upgrade time. And at the end of the day, spend 2 minutes logging your time and your win. Today, I upgraded you in the area of ooh. That log is not journaling for comfort. It is accountability. It is proof. It is a receipt that you showed up. Now your 24-hour assignment. Do not read past this and pretend you will do it later. Later is where goals go to die, within the next 24 hours. Lock an exact time block for tomorrow's daily upgrade. Write it down. Put it on the clock. Then, write your minimum standard for your worst day small enough that you cannot escape it. Then, choose one upgrade from your rotation and execute it inside that time block tomorrow, after you execute. Record one line: I kept the rhythm. That is the whole game. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Protect the block. Hit the minimum standard. Repeat, focus on you until you win. Chapter 8. Mindset and Limiting Beliefs plus Personal Development. Your biggest enemy is not out there. It is in your head. The world can be loud, unfair, distracting, and chaotic. But none of that ruins your plan the way a single sentence inside you can. The real sabotage usually doesn't come from strangers. It comes from your own quiet internal voice running in the background. The voice that says, "I can't." The voice that says, "I'm not built for this." The voice that says, "What's the point?" That is the insider. That is the leak. And if you do not expose it, it will choke your discipline before it even starts. You can build the cleanest system on paper, the strongest daily plan, the perfect schedule, and still fail because your mindset will refuse to execute. This is why you must treat your thinking like security. No mercy, no negotiation. Your self-image is not a motivational quote. It is the foundation that determines what actions you allow yourself to repeat. And repetition is everything. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you will find a reason to quit. If you see yourself as someone who shows up, you will show up. This is not philosophy. This is mechanics. Beliefs drive actions. Actions compound into identity. Identity decides your results. Limiting beliefs are dangerous because they block small actions. Not big actions, small ones, the mind says. That tiny step is useless, and you stop, you delay, you drift, and you lose the only thing that creates change, the daily upgrade. Personal development is not a moment of inspiration. It is the boring repetition of learning, applying, correcting, and showing up again in a world that keeps changing. Standing still is not neutral. Standing still is falling behind. So your job is not to wait until you feel confident. Your job is to build confidence the only way it is built, through evidence, daily evidence, small proof, over and over. Now we get specific, in the mindset zone. The repeated mistake is self-talk that kills execution. I can't do it. I don't have the talent. I'm not the type. You say it so often you don't even hear it anymore. You treat failure like a verdict instead of a lesson. You treat one mistake as the end, and you call small efforts pointless because the goal looks big. That is how people stay stuck for years, not because they lack information, because they keep repeating the same internal script. And the script keeps producing the same life. Your task is to break the script, not with hope, with a rule. Here is the daily discipline. Change the sentence, then change the action. You do not just think positive, you replace the exact words. When your brain says, "I can't do this," you answer, "I am learning how to do this." When your brain says, "I don't have time," you answer, "I have not prioritized it." These are not cute affirmations. These are operational commands. They remove the excuse and restore ownership. Then comes the part most people skip: proof. Immediately after you change the sentence, you must do one small action to confirm it. Not tomorrow, not later, now. 5 minutes, 1 rep, 1 page, 1 message, 1 draft, 1 tiny move that proves you are the kind of person who acts. Because beliefs do not change by debate. They change by evidence. Evidence is built by action. Action is built by discipline, and discipline is built one day at a time. If you want a mindset that wins, you must act like a person who wins, even when you don't feel like it. Now we move to personal development. This is where people waste years pretending they are growing. They consume information like entertainment. They watch, scroll, listen, save, and never convert it into skill. Their learning is random, emotional, scattered, no accumulation, no structure. And because they don't track progress, they feel like nothing is changing, so they quit. They quit not because growth is impossible, but because they never built a visible record of growth. So here is your daily discipline for this zone: 20 minutes plus one note. Every day you invest at least 20 minutes into learning something that supports your direction: reading, training, practicing a tool, studying a skill. It does not matter if it feels small. It matters that it repeats. Then you write one practical line. One line only. Today I learned ... Or today I fixed ... Or today I used ... in ... This one-line log is not decoration. It is your proof system. It forces your brain to see progress. It turns learning into accumulation. And it prevents the classic trap: consuming without becoming. Remember this and do not forget it. Formal education can help you make a living, but self-education is what builds a fortune, not because of luck, because of value. Value compounds, and the person who compounds value every day becomes dangerous in the best way: capable, sharp, and reliable. Now, you need options you can plug into your rotation immediately. Keep them simple. Keep them repeatable. Read 10 pages in your field. Rewrite one negative belief into a positive command and act on it for 5 minutes. Learn one new word, one new feature, one new shortcut. Then use it the same day. Spend 5 minutes at night to write down one improvement you made, even if it was small. These are upgrades. These are bricks. They look tiny. That is the point. Tiny means you will actually do it. And doing it is what changes you. Now, your 24-hour assignment. No negotiation. Choose one limiting belief that has been blocking you the most. Name it clearly. Write it down. Then convert it into a positive command you can execute. Not a fantasy. A command. Next, prove it. Do one small action for at least 5 minutes that supports the new belief. If your new belief is, "I am learning how to do this," then learn for 5 minutes. If your new belief is, "I prioritize what matters," then block 5 minutes and execute one upgrade. Finally, complete your 20 minutes of learning today and write one line in your upgrade log with the single most valuable thing you learned or fixed. That is it. Simple, sharp, repeatable, because you are not trying to feel different. You are trying to become different. And you become different the same way you win. You focus on you until you win. Chapter 9. Knowledge plus Finances. Stop believing in stability. It is a comforting lie. The world moves, the market shifts, skills expire, opportunities rotate. If you stop learning, you are not standing still, you are falling behind. And money is not loyal. It does not just happen. It does not just stay. Money is the outcome of daily decisions. If you do not manage it, it leaks, quietly, constantly, until one day you look up and realize your future is smaller than it should be. Here is the steel message: if you don't learn, you get left behind. If you don't manage, you end up broke. This chapter is about making success real, not a feeling, not a motivational fantasy. real, visible, measurable. The core mechanism is simple. Increase value and keep the result. Knowledge increases your output. Output means your ability, your skill, your problem-solving power, the value you bring to the marketplace. The more value you create, the more reward you can command. But finances decide whether that reward stays in your hands. Finances are the discipline that protects your output from bleeding out. You can earn more and still live in the same loop if you leak everything you earn. That is why these two must work together. Knowledge gives you the engine. Finances give you the fuel tank and the discipline to not punch holes in it. Compound knowledge leads to compound assets only if you stop the leaks. First, the knowledge zone learn to execute. The mistake most people repeat is passive consumption. They read headlines, they scroll, they watch, they feel informed, but they can't do more. They can't produce more. They can't solve bigger problems. They confuse information with skill. They also learn by mood. A burst today, nothing tomorrow, no rhythm, no system. And the biggest illusion, school was enough. Formal education can help you make a living, but self-education is what makes you dangerous in the real world. If you want results, you must learn like your life depends on it, because it does. Here is the daily discipline. Learn one piece, use one piece, minimum 20 minutes a day, not when you feel like it, not when you have time. You make time. You choose a skill or knowledge area connected to your goal. Then you apply something immediately the same day. Just small usage, one real action, because knowledge that is not used is just noise, and you log it in one line. Today I used knowledge keys to do our joke. That one line forces reality. It proves that your learning is not entertainment. It is training. That is how you build leverage. You stack small skill gains until your output becomes undeniable. Second, the finances zone manage your freedom. The mistakes are predictable and brutal. Emotional spending, impulse purchases. I deserved it. Then the quiet collapse. Another mistake, no tracking. Money disappears. It didn't disappear. You just weren't watching. And the third mistake, no discipline in delaying gratification. You keep buying comfort today and selling your future tomorrow. That is the trade most people make without admitting it. Here is the daily discipline 2-minute tracking plus the rule: spend less than you earn. Every day, at the end of the day, take 2 minutes and write the main expenses, not to judge yourself, to see. Because what you don't measure will always control you. Then, lock the golden rule: always spend less than you earn. And keep a portion to invest. You don't need a complex system to start. You need a standard, and you need a weekly review. Once a week, look at your list and find the biggest leak, the one expense category that is bleeding you the most. Cut one thing, just one. That is the daily upgrade system applied to money, small cuts. Repeated. Become large freedom. You want a simple menu of small upgrades. Here it is. For knowledge, read 10 pages of a skill book. Listen to one focused podcast and extract one actionable idea. Learn one new word or tool feature and use it in a real conversation or task. For finances, say no to one unnecessary purchase. Record every expense today in an app or a notebook. Spend 10 minutes learning about one small investment channel. Not to gamble, but to understand the landscape. None of these are heroic. That is the point. The goal is not to impress. The goal is to compound. Now, the 24-hour assignment: No negotiation. First, spend 20 minutes learning one new thing that supports your goal. Then apply it today to one concrete task. One email, one workflow, one action. Second, record every expense from the last 24 hours. All of it. Then identify one item you can cut. One leak, one decision. Third, write the commitment line and mean it. I manage knowledge to increase my value. I manage finances to keep my freedom. Then prove it. You don't win by wishing. You win by upgrading. You build value. You keep what you earn. You repeat until you win. Chapter 10. The Results Delay Zone. You need a prophecy before you enter this part, because this is where most people die. Not physically, mentally. This is the dangerous breakpoint, the moment when you are doing the right things, doing them consistently, and your life still looks the same. No applause, no visible reward, no sudden transformation. And that is exactly when the old pattern tries to pull you back: excitement, then quitting. So hear this clearly. There will be a time when you show up on schedule. You hit your small upgrades. You protect the fixed hour. You follow the rotation. And nothing looks different yet. That moment does not mean you failed. It does not mean the system is wrong. It means you have entered what this chapter names the results delay zone, the gap between disciplined action and visible results. The delay is not an accident. It is built into reality. Results do not arrive linearly. They arrive on a curve. They arrive after the accumulation crosses a threshold. And the moment before the threshold is always quiet. That is why this zone is so brutal. You are asked to keep paying the price while the receipt is still invisible. And this is the core message. The delay is not a sign of failure. It is the natural law of accumulation. Do not stop when you are standing right in front of the door. Most people quit at the door because it does not open instantly. They turn around, call it not working, and walk back to the same life. You will not do that. You will not panic. You will not interpret silence as defeat. You will stay on the rail. Now step into the second part. The great filter. The delay zone is not just a phase. It is a filter. It functions like a net that catches the weak pattern and lets only the serious through. It removes the people who live on mood, the people who only act when they feel inspired, the people who are secretly waiting for a big jump, a miracle, a perfect week, a sudden burst of motivation. The delay zone exposes what you really are. If you need instant proof, you are not building anything. You are gambling, and gambling always collapses when the odds look quiet. This is where CWP becomes real. You are laying a foundation with small improvements, 1%, one brick, 1 day at a time. And foundations are underground, they are invisible. Nobody claps for a foundation. Nobody celebrates concrete drying. But without it, the building dies. The delay zone is the underground stage. If you can walk through the invisible part, you earn the right to live in the visible part. If you cannot, you do not deserve the results. That is not cruelty. That is the rule. The world pays the people who stay locked in long after the feelings disappear. So stop expecting the reward to show up early. Your job is not to be impressed. Your job is to be consistent. Now we cut the next enemy, your feelings. In the delay zone, your emotions become a liar. You will feel this is useless. You will feel nothing is changing. You will feel bored, tired, irritated, restless, and those sensations will try to label your progress as pointless. But those feelings are not the truth of your trajectory. They are temporary chemical reactions. They are noise. And if you let noise run the system dies. So you must separate emotion from commitment. Your commitment is not based on mood. It is based on the rotation schedule for the 10 zones and your minimum standard. That is the operating principle. You do not wake up and ask, "Do I feel like it?" You wake up and ask, "What zone is today?" Then you lock the small upgrade. Then you execute it in the fixed hour. If the day is good, you can do more. If the day is bad, you do the minimum standard, but you do not break the chain. Because success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day, and in the delay zone. Emotion is just interference trying to break your repetition. Treat it like interference. Remove it. Continue anyway. Now I give you a weapon. Practical. Simple. Ruthless. The one more rule. When you feel like quitting, do not think about the long road. Do not think about how far you still have to go. That thought is designed to crush you. Instead, shrink the battle to one command: one more. One more minute, one more rep, one more day. That is it. When your brain starts negotiating, stop. It's not worth it, you answer with execution, not conversation. One more minute means you add exactly 60 seconds to finish the piece you are avoiding. You do not need a full hour. You need one more minute to prove you are still in control. One more rep means you add one more small action inside today's zone. One more sentence written, one more push-up, one more page, one more tracked expense, one more clear message sent, one more deliberate choice. It does not need to be heroic. It needs to be real. One more day is the biggest one. It means you commit to showing up tomorrow at the fixed hour. No matter what today felt like, you do not make promises about a whole new life. You make one promise: tomorrow I show up. This rule exists for one purpose: to protect the chain of accumulation from breaking. Because the chain is where the power is. The chain is your identity compound. The chain is your self-trust. Now understand the price of regret, because you need to be forced into reality. There are two pains. Pick one. The pain of small daily discipline is light but constant. It is manageable. It is boring. It is the quiet pain of doing what you said you would do. The pain of regret is heavy and sharp. It is the pain of breaking the chain, watching yourself drift, and knowing you did it to yourself. When you stop in the delay zone, you do not just lose a day. You sabotage the entire compound interest you have built. You burn the invisible foundation you paid for. You don't just pause, you reset the clock. And starting again is always harder than continuing. Keeping the rhythm is always easier than rebuilding the rhythm. So do not romanticize quitting. Quitting is not rest. Quitting is destruction. Rest can exist inside the system. Quitting destroys the system. And if you destroy it, you are back at zero with the same mind, the same excuses, and the same future. You will not pay that price. Now we install the operating algorithm for this zone. Invisible mode. This is how you run when results are not visible. Step 1. Stop scoring yourself by outcomes. Outcomes are delayed. If you score by outcomes, you will panic and quit. Instead, score by days survived on the rotation schedule. Count the days you showed up on time. Count the days you hit the small upgrade. Count the days you did not break the chain. That is your scoreboard in the invisible stage. Step 2. Hold the minimum standard on the worst days. You do not try to impress yourself. You do not try to make up for it. You simply execute the smallest committed action you defined earlier. You shrink, but you do not disappear. You protect continuity. Step 3. Worship action. In invisible mode, finishing the daily small upgrade is the only win you are allowed to care about. Not the scale, not the praise, not the visible change. Your only win is execution, because execution is what keeps the compound alive. Execution is what keeps you out of the old loop. Execution is what turns you into the person who finishes. That is the identity you are building here. Now the 24-hour assignment. You will not treat this chapter like content. You will treat it like a command. Within the next 24 hours, you will write this sentence and you will mean it. The results delay zone is inevitable. I am not allowed to panic or stop. Then you will choose today's zone from the rotation schedule and you will execute your small upgrade immediately. Not later. Immediately. And if your mind starts stalling, you will apply one more minute, one more rep, or one more day. Then you will record a one-line log to lock it into reality. Today I stayed in the system. I did my upgrade in the zone Oalakoong. That is the point. You do not win by feeling powerful. You win by staying on the rail until the invisible becomes visible. Focus on you until you win. Chapter 11. Busy does not mean progress. Busy is often a lie. Not a lie you tell others, a lie you tell yourself so you don't have to face the truth. You are standing still, or you don't even know where you're going. You hide behind movement. You hide behind messages, errands, little tasks, and constant motion. You look active. You feel productive. But at the end of the day, nothing moved. Here is the new standard. Read it twice. A successful day is not measured by how many things you touched. It is measured by one thing. Only did you complete at least one real daily upgrade. Or not. If the answer is no, the day did not count. This chapter is going to strip the illusion of productivity and force you back onto the only path that works: consistent accumulation through the right disciplines. Repeated. Step 1 is to identify false busyness. False busyness looks like this. You react all day. Notifications pull you. Requests push you. You bounce from one thing to the next. You multitask. You start 5 tasks and finish none. You answer messages like a firefighter. You keep switching tabs like it's your job. You feel on. You feel needed. You feel important. And then night comes. And you cannot name one core area you actually upgraded. You cannot point to one brick you placed into your future. That is the cost. You spent energy and got 0 accumulation. This is not harmless. Repeating meaningless actions every day is compound failure. It is interest on the wrong account. You don't just lose today. You build a habit of wasting today. And that habit becomes your life. So stop tolerating it. Step 2 is the ruthless tool that ends the debate, the move the needle test. Before you do anything, ask one question and answer it like a judge, not a friend. Does this action create a real daily upgrade inside the 10 zones I am building? If the answer is yes, it stays. If the answer is no, it is noise. Move the needle means it directly contributes to your accumulation. It pushes you forward in a way that can be repeated and stacked. It strengthens your rhythm. It protects your focus. It increases your skill. It improves your discipline. It builds your finances. It upgrades your attitude. It makes you better than yesterday, even by 1%. Anything else is activity without progress, and activity without progress is a trap. A polished trap. It feels safe. It feels busy, but it keeps you weak. So classify everything. There are only two categories: progress or noise. Pass or fail. If it fails the test, cut it, shrink it, or schedule it outside your protected window. You do not negotiate with noise. You remove it. Step 3 is where most people break. Because it exposes a psychological truth, doing many small, easy tasks gives you fake relief. It gives you the feeling of control without the pain of real work. It reduces guilt. It gives you quick hits. It makes you feel like you did something. But it is often a way to avoid the one hard thing that would actually change you. This is why people love being busy. Busy is a shield. Busy is an excuse that sounds respectable. I've been so busy is the cleanest way to admit you didn't progress, without saying you didn't progress. But the system does not accept that excuse. This book does not reward the appearance of effort. It only recognizes real daily upgrades. One upgrade beats 50 busy tasks. One hard. Focused action beats a full day of scattered motion. You are not here to look productive. You are here to become powerful through accumulation, so you will shift your mindset from quantity of activity to quality of accumulation. You will stop counting tasks. You will start counting bricks. Step 4 is the process that guarantees every day leaves a real mark. It is simple on purpose. 3 steps. Morning: choose your zone for the day using your rotation schedule. Don't freestyle. Don't pick based on mood. The schedule decides. Then, choose one upgrade inside that zone that meets your minimum standard. 1, not 5. 1. During the day, execute that one upgrade. Protect it. Treat it as non-negotiable. You can do other tasks after, but you will not sacrifice the upgrade for them. You will not get to it later. Later is where upgrades go to die. End of day, write one line of proof. One line. No journaling essays, no emotional paragraphs. A log. Today I upgraded wapo in the zone wapo. That single line is your brick. It is your receipt. It is the evidence that you are not drifting. This is how you build a tower instead of kicking up dust. Because dust looks like action, but it doesn't stack. Bricks stack. Step 5 is the power move that separates builders from talkers you cut. You say no. Every time you say no to false busyness, you buy back time for real accumulation. You buy back focus. You buy back your future. You are going to protect your fixed execution window and your attention for the 10 zones from invasion random calls. Unnecessary meetings, endless chats, scrolling, reactive errands, and other people's emergencies that are not your mission. You don't need to be extreme. You need to be consistent. You don't need superhuman effort. You need the right disciplines. Repeated, that is the law. That is the system. You win by staying locked in. You win by showing up. You win by refusing the noise. And now the 24-hour assignment. Do not read past this like it's entertainment. Execute. Within the next 24 hours, list 5 things you plan to do today, or already did today. Put them on paper. Then, run the move the needle test on each one. Mark each item as either false busy or real progress. No gray zone, no excuses. Next, cut at least one false busy item from tomorrow's schedule. Delete it. Not reduce, delete. Replace that space with one daily upgrade that passes the test. Finally, execute one upgrade and write the required log line at the end of the day. Today I upgraded Og in the zone Opokao. That line is the difference between a day that counts and a day that disappears. You want freedom, stop worshipping busy. You want results, stop chasing motion. Choose one real upgrade, get it, log it, repeat. That is progress. Everything else is noise. Chapter 12. The 90-day cycle. Plus the 24-hour reset. You do not fail because you had one bad day. You fail when you let the cycle break. That is the only real losing. One ugly day is an event. A broken rhythm is a decision. Your life does not change because you understand more. Your life changes when you stay in the rhythm long enough for the compound effect to hit the point where it flips. That switch is not luck. It is time under discipline. Success is not a fixed destination you arrive at once and keep forever. Success is the result of simple disciplines repeated daily, protected long enough to compound. This chapter gives you two weapons: a filter to protect a 90-day rhythm, and a protocol to come back immediately when you slip. No drama, no delay. You will run your life in cycles, and you will reset in 24 hours. Part A is tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is how you lock your focus on the system you already built, the rotation across the 10 zones. One small upgrade a day, on a fixed time block, with a minimum standard for bad days. Tunnel vision starts with vision dominance. Your feelings are not truth. They are temporary disturbances. Tired, bored, pointless, hopeless. Those are chemical weather patterns. They rise, they fall, they lie. If you obey them, they will move you off the path and call it self-care. Do not fall for it. The 90-day vision must be more real than today's discomfort. You are not trying to feel motivated. You are becoming the person who improves daily across the 10 zones. That identity is the only thing that can outvote the noise. So you dominate the day with vision. You decide who you are becoming. You decide what this cycle means. You decide that the next 90 days are non-negotiable. Then comes daily renewal. A 90-day cycle is not protected by one big speech you give yourself on day one. It is protected by a small renewal you do every morning. Every morning you look at the rotation schedule for the 10 zones. You pick today's zone. You lock one small upgrade for that zone. You do not wait for the day to open up. You do not wait for the mood to arrive. You choose the action while your mind is still clean. Then you execute it in the fixed time block you already set. This is how you keep the system alive. Choose early. Do it once. Log it. Move on. And remember the core truth. Success is not something you chase. Success is something you attract by the person you train yourself to become daily. You do not rise to your dreams. You sink to your standards. So renew the standard every morning. Next is the binary test. This is the filter that keeps you out of the trap of false busyness and loud distractions. Every decision in your day must answer one question and one question only. Does this action feed the rhythm or break the rhythm? Feed the rhythm means you complete at least one real small upgrade in the 10 zones today. Not thinking about it, not planning it, not consuming content about it, completing it. If an action does not feed the rhythm, it is noise, it is distraction, it is a thief dressed up as an opportunity. The binary test is brutal because it is simple, and simple is what works when life gets loud. Use it on messages, use it on meetings, use it on scrolling, use it on your own inner negotiation. Feed or break, yes or no. That is it. Then comes the necessary isolation and the command until. You do not protect a 90-day cycle by trying harder in a chaotic environment. You protect it by cutting the noise and guarding the fixed time block. Isolation is not a vibe. It is a decision to remove what pulls you off rhythm. You will protect your time block like it is life support, because it is. You will say no to false busyness. You will say no to people-pleasing. You will say no to the endless inputs that leave you active but unchanged. And you will change your language from "I will try to" "I will do it until it becomes who I am." Try is a loophole. Until is a command. Until means you stay in the cycle long enough for the compound effect to show up. Until means you keep showing up even when the result is invisible. Until means you do the minimum standard on bad days and the full standard on good days, but you never break the chain. Part B. Is Phoenix the 24-hour reset? You will fall. That is normal. Falling is an event. Staying down is the choice that creates failure. Your job is not to pretend you are perfect. Your job is to stand up fast. When you slip, you do not spiral. You do not punish yourself with emotions. You use alchemy of pain. Pain becomes data. You ask 3 hard questions, and you write the answers like a technician, not a victim. Where did I slip? Why did I slip? What will I cut tomorrow so it does not repeat? That is it. No self-hate. No long story. You can be interrupted, but you are never allowed to stop completely. There is always a script to reset immediately. That script is the Reset 24-hour protocol. Here are the 6 steps, and you will follow them in order. Step 1. Stop the bleeding. Cut off the action or trigger that is dragging you further off rhythm. End the scroll. Leave the noise. Shut the door. Cancel the extra. Do not negotiate with the thing that is killing the cycle. Step 2. Return to the minimum standard. Choose the smallest upgrade you can do right now, within minutes, with 0 preparation. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to reconnect to the rhythm. Step 3. Follow the 10-zone rotation. Do the zone that matches the schedule. Do not pick based on mood. Mood is the enemy in this moment. The schedule is your rail. Step 4. Write a 1-line log, 1 sentence. Confirm what you did and what zone it was in. This log is not journaling. It is proof. It is identity. It is the receipt that you return to discipline. Step 5. Lock tomorrow. Before you sleep, write tomorrow's small upgrade in advance. Remove choice from the morning. Make the next win automatic. Step 6. No overcompensation. No catching up. No grinding yourself into the ground to make up for the slip. That is ego. That is emotion. That is another way to break the cycle. You return to normal rhythm. You protect the chain. You move forward. Now, the 24-hour assignment to publish your life cycle. You will build the next 2 weeks of the 10-zone rotation on paper. Starting today, you will write 3 short vision sentences for your 90 days. The kind you can read in 10 seconds when you feel weak. You will write your personal binary test question exactly as a one-line filter. Does this feed the rhythm or break the rhythm? You will create a visible reset 24 hours card that lists the 6 steps in your own words and place it where you cannot ignore it. Then, within the next 24 hours, you will complete one small upgrade and write the one-line log. Do it now. Lock the cycle. Protect the rhythm. Reset fast. Repeat until you win.